Today I've watched One Piece Film Red, the newest and most anticipated One Piece movie probably of all time. It's centered around Luffy meeting a childhood friend who is the daughter of Shanks. Shanks being one of the most powerful people in One Piece. I kind of want to address this movie in a non-spoiler but also non-fan perspective, because in a lot of ways this film is made specifically for people who haven't watched One Piece, and obviously for fans as well, but it's definitely not about spectacular fights. They focus on the emotions of characters so much that Luffy himself barely ever fights at all, for good reason. The biggest thing to mention by far is the fact that this is a musical. Without any doubt, it is entirely a musical, for better or for worse. Expect a lot of music, expect it to be portraying the character's emotions, and expect the fighting to be in the background, or when it is in the foreground, most of the time it does not look particularly good. And as someone who believes that the current anime looks perfectly fine with its animation and its just overall visuals, it really stands out to me how bad the movie looked at times. There were multiple times where I could clearly see that characters were very off model. And it didn't affect the movie as much as you might think, just because, like I said, it's a musical. So obviously the most important parts look perfectly great. And these parts where they look a little more off model, I would say that they're kind of not important cartoony moments most of the time. But yeah, if you have already had problems with the visuals of One Piece in the past, I would say this might be even worse, considering it's a movie. But at the same time, there are some really good moments in the musical sections, sometimes using CG in some very, I don't want to say unique ways, but they aren't like what you normally would expect CGI to look like. Sometimes it's like distracting for literally 1 or 2 seconds here and there, and then they adapt it into the movie in such a way that it looks really good, I guess. Again, it's a musical first, so having unique visuals was definitely a key focus of the team that made this. The outfits of everybody is very stylish, and Robin is especially good. Nico Robin. She's, I think, in her best outfit ever. And Nami looks fine. Brook looks goofy. Sanji looks good. Yeah, so all the characters that we already know are looking pretty good. Nothing really worth noting other than Nico Robin, in my opinion. Shanks does show up in the movie, as has been shown. You might be like, of course he does, but you never know. Sometimes they show off a character a whole bunch, and then they're in the movie only a span of 5 minutes. But in this case, he is going to be very important, and you get a really good look at the type of character he is. I'm very happy to see that this is kind of his first real showcase as a character that we've ever seen in the whole show, because otherwise we've only seen backstories and snippets in the current timeline. Very few snippets, though. very, very little. We kind of see a whole hint of what Shank's crew fights like. It's very little, but for fans who don't know anything about Shank's crew, or have just moderately paid attention, it is interesting to see a Yonko's Four Emperors crew in action, since we've seen so many of the other Emperor's crews in action already. As a musical, I think it excels wonderfully in a lot of ways. Again, it's a musical, so the plot's not overly complicated. There's a few misconceptions about what's going on throughout the story. I do think there is a bit of an issue of the villain's motivations. However, you can clearly see how conflicted they are. It does feel like they were forced into their role more than normal, admittedly. But I prefer that portrayal of a villain rather than making them have this megamaniacal goal that they believe is best for everyone. This villain is completely conflicted in every sense of the word. But yeah, again, it feels like here's the motivations are good, and then we learn a little more about their motivations, and you start kind of questioning if this makes sense for the character, and then by the end of the movie, it's like, it definitely feels like they went out of their way to show a very emotional scene for a situation that was avoidable, but for such an emotional character who was thrust into the position they were in, I feel like you could almost justify them doing anything because of how isolated they were. The way the story is told is very modern day-ish, with having a reference to YouTube and online popularity and connecting to fans, because the main character is Uta, a pop singer. I say she's a pop singer, but she actually has 2 or 3 different genres that she sings, and I think all the songs were great, in my opinion. During these musical sections, all you will be doing is reading what she's singing, and of course there's visuals going off, but like the focus is the lyrics. Even if the lyrics are like pretty basic, sometimes it's just generally, this is my straightforward emotion, or this is my negative straightforward emotion, or something. But I think the way that they portray Uta's emotions is very good, especially for a musical. And I think this movie, more than the real series, does a good job at portraying how people view pirates and view the Navy, in that nobody is thinking about the population of the planet. There's the Navy who is thinking about the interests of the world government, and there's the pirates who are mostly thinking about their own interests. And so everybody on the planet ends up getting pushed to the wayside because of all of these selfish interests that are affecting everyone else. And surprisingly, again, this is hinted at plenty of times throughout the main story of One Piece, but here it's the main focus in a 2-hour special. Some of the most noteworthy animation moments include things that feel like montages, in that you zoom in to a character doing a big move, then it transitions to showing another character doing a big move, and it's like doing zoom ins and zoom outs. So it's just very much of a montage. The fighting really doesn't matter, except for maybe 3 times in the whole movie, I'd say. But considering that part of the whole point of the movie is to be against the continued violence happening throughout the One Piece world, it makes sense that violence isn't glorified. It's an unfortunate necessity to achieve the villain's goal. I also like how the island that this takes place on is really fleshed out, as in you see every location and you can kind of really feel where everybody is as they adventure through the island. There's a lot of movies that take place on islands. All of the One Piece movies take place on islands technically, but this one's a unique island that they show an overview of the island, and there's like 3 major locations, and you can see how they travel between each location. And by the end of the whole movie, it's pretty clear that they were just focusing on the first location, the concert hall, that is the main focus for a good 30 minutes of the beginning of the movie. Again, unless you expect this movie to be a musical, I could see you being very disappointed, and a lot of people don't like musicals, admittedly. I'm perfectly fine with watching a musical, and this is exactly what you would want, hearing that the main focus of the movie is a pop singer. And I want to emphasize that it is actually not a happy-go-lucky story. It's a pretty dark story, even for One Piece. Again, focusing on the ignored masses of the whole planet, and then seeing how pirates and the Marines have created this world that is manipulated by the greater powers that be. We had some good cameos. There are a lot of characters that you're going to see that you would never expect to come here. Of note, oh no, I don't want to say it. Of note, there are characters from many arcs that you wouldn't expect to see. Let's just say that. They could have used any character here. Like, some people would call this fan service. In my opinion, this isn't fan service. This is just using characters that make sense that they would be here. It's not like you have Ace or Sabo showing up out of nowhere for no reason, for instance. I'll let you know, Ace and Sabo don't show up, which is very nice, because I feel like Ace and Sabo are showing up in the main story a little too much at the moment. You kind of never know when they're going to show up, but when they do show up, it's like, oh, I guess we're going to have them do stuff again. Okay. But yeah, for non-fans, it ends up feeling more of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure arc, in that there is, in case you haven't watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, admittedly, that there is somebody with a power, and everybody has to understand what this person's power can do before they can even start to try to stop them. And that alone, like the mystery of how to deal with this person's power, is very interesting. I think it was done very well as you could possibly imagine. And then, of course, the second half of the movie would be where more of the motivations and methods of what people are trying to do are put into question. Overall, I think the movie is a 10 out of 10, even though I have so many issues with it in so many ways. It's a really good musical, and it has a good flow, in my opinion. Like, I was kind of questioning about the pacing at the beginning, but as it keeps going, it kind of starts at a high note, then kind of mellows out a little, and then it just kind of goes high and low, just constantly, just like, because there can't be a big fight to resolve the whole situation, which is very unique for any shonen action movie. You would normally think, yeah, just go at your most powerful mode and just beat on the bad guy, but like, it's not gonna be how this movie solves everything, for good reason, very good reason. Motivations are key to this movie, more so than most other movies that I've ever seen. Thanks for watching. Please support me on Patreon, watch me on Twitch, and look forward to more of my anime reviews coming soon, I promise. ハッピーハロウィン歌だよ